is you can't hesitate. You can't second guess yourself. So I'm going to go to the goal line. I think that's the first time I ever explained it to you guys is down at the goal line. Man, you go off your first instinct at the goal line on defense. You can't second guess yourself. You got to go because there's only a couple yards down there, and whoever hits the hardest is going to get knocked back. So you can't wait. You got to go off what you believe and your first instinct. And your first instinct is a true instinct. Will you be wrong once in a while? Yes. All right. But man, okay, you're going to be right a heck of a lot more, and you're going to make more progress if you don't hesitate because of how you prepared. If you prepared correctly, there is no hesitation. Don't second guess yourself.
Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for listening. Whether you've tuned in to elevate your mindset, your game, or just your day, you are in the right place. My guest this episode is one of the longest tenured head coaches in all of Division I football. He is a 2007 Eddie Robinson Award winner. His list of other incredible career stats is linked up here as he sent dozens of players on at their chance at the NFL. He's won 7 conference titles, 2 that I was actually a part of, as this episode is a little extra special to me as I am grateful and excited to welcome my former college head coach and the head coach for the University of Northern Iowa Panthers to the Elev8 podcast, Mark Farley.
I'm doing excellent.
Good. We were just reminiscing a little bit about my gray hair, and I think the time you've been at Northern Iowa, but I think one of the things that stands out as I kind of reflect back on your career is that just you're one of the longest tenured Division I coaches across the country. And what do you attribute that to? I know you've had a long, loyal, tee to Northern Iowa, but a lot of coaches move and go for a lot of different reasons. What's kept you where you are and kept you committed to the community?
I think there's multiple things when you stay in one place. I think there's multiple things that have to fall in line that, nobody can ever project the future. But I think around here, for me in particular, loyalty was a big deal because I am an alumni of this place. I think loyalty to the former players because there's so many great guys that you've been a part of that they're family now. They're not just teammates or brothers as they were as teammates to you, but now they're actually family because I was the head coach when they were here. So there's loyalty to them, but loyalty to your family because I want to make sure that my kids grew up in one high school and got to call someplace home for the rest of their life. And Cedar Falls is a great community. And then, it's just you want to be in a place that loves football, that football's important too, and you always got a great chance to win. And we do that here at the University of Northern Iowa.
And I think no one can sell the dome like Coach Mark Farley, I think. And I think you've shown that over the years, and not only your ability to recruit, but I think the other thing you've been able to draw to Northern Iowa is so many great coaches. I think you've brought so many back through the years. I know a couple that are just returned, and then I think so many coaches that you've helped early in their career and begin a coaching career of their own. What do you enjoy most about seeing other coaches grow within the game of football?
Well, what I've really taken a hold of, or it's kind of evolved, is who you hire. And being in one place as long as I have, we've hired a lot of coaches. When you're successful, you're going to lose coaches. Yep. And when you're unsuccessful, then everybody's going to get move on. So it's one or the other. Yep. And we've been very successful over the years, and it's because of the assistant coaches as much as the players that we brought in here. But in regards to the hiring process, I always got big into number one, particularly when I was young. I wanted one really experienced guy that I could rely on, somebody to cross-check me. I mean, somebody that I could go to, and somebody that had the confidence and the experience that they could say, "Hey, coach, look at it from this view and maybe instead of from this view." And then ultimately your salary pool dictates that you're going to get a lot of young coaches in the FCS ranks. And then I wanted to get somebody that was passionate about football, somebody that was a great teacher, because when I go out and hire somebody and when I have a meeting with my staff, it's all about the player. And the player the work starts when the player, when we start teaching them on the field. It's not the recruiting process. The recruiting is somebody's got to pick somebody. We pick them because of talent. They pick us because of what we told them. And when somebody comes here, the work starts when they arrive on campus because we told them what we're going to be. Now we have to uphold to what we said. And that's where the head coach, I'm going to be here. I'm going to see him graduate. So I'm going to go out and hire the assistants that are, one, great teachers, two, that are passionate about football, and three, that are passionate about bringing up young men in the right way. And those guys are hard to find because to hit on all three cylinders is a very unique person. And we've hit on that. And you can go down the list of the guys that have became head coaches in the BCS, defensive coordinators in the BCS, offensive coordinators in the BCS,
Yep.
NFL assistant coaches. I
Yep.
mean, and all of them, just like our former players, the common denominator, they were passionate about their players. They loved their players. The players loved them. And they were passionate about the teaching process on the field. We can learn the rest of this stuff. It's not the X's and O's. It is who you are on the field with your players, and then those guys that evolve like that have great careers after they leave here.
Yeah, that was my experience with mostly at a couple DB coaches, but Coach Bulks, Rob he was a teacher, and he coached some players much better than I before and after my time. But you hit on something too that I always talk to student athletes when they're kind of that exciting signing day, which I remember sending a fax to Northern Iowa and for my signing day and checking it from the payphone near the gym to make sure they got the fax. No balloons, no cameras, went back to class. I do remind kids while they should celebrate that opportunity, that commitment that they sign is the beginning and to committing to work harder. And it's not going to get easier once you arrive on campus. And I remember my first one-on-one in fall camp was against Eddie Berlin, and I got smoked. And another great player we had. But what is it that when families are looking at Northern Iowa and recruits, what does that sell to them about the workload? Because I know it was very honest when I was experienced it. What do you tell them about the workload it's going to be to be a Panther?
Well, one, I'd start with this. They have to see the results. There's got to be a vision in recruiting. It's not who you are that day we take you. When we bring guys in here right now, they're 16, 17 years old today. And we're recruiting them. I want to know what they're going to look like when they're 21 years old. That's when they're in their best for college football. So what are you going to be when you're 21? And so first we have to create a vision for them. And that's my job is, look at the frame, look at the personality, look at the passion, look at the parents, look at the character. Find all those things that you're looking for to fit your school. So the first thing we're looking for is, the vision. And then you have to present the vision to them, not sell the vision. I'm not going to sell anything. All right. I'm going to present the vision of what I see for them in their future here. And if it matches up right, then it's a great take because it's going to come out that way if we just tell the truth. And that's what the way, as you know, that's how we recruit. That's how we talk to our players here. But it's the vision. And then two, everybody's got a vision and could probably present a vision, but who can produce the vision and create the vision? And that's what we do here, you and I, because that's what's going to happen after you get to the university, and what's going to be like when you get there. And so what we do is we show the before and after shots. This is what he looked like coming in the door. This is what he looked like going out the door. And that's a huge deal because he did the work. And that goes right back. It goes right back to our weight room with Jed Smith. I mean, Jed's been with me since 2004. There's a reason I'm here. And having the success, it's the other people. It's what Jed has done in the weight room since 2004. It's what Stace has done in academics since 2006. I mean, I can go right down the list. They've been here, but they have been the foundation to create the vision that we present to the player. And Jed puts them in the weight room. And you mentioned the work. It's not work. If work means that I'm grinding. Okay, I'm going there, and work sounds like it's negative. That you're training. Okay. Yeah. If you're passionate, man, I've been here. I work I should be careful. I come into the office every day, Christmas Day, New Year's Day. I've never worked a day in my life. All right. Because I'm training, I'm preparing. It's what I want to do. And even if I wasn't getting paid for it, you still want to do it. And that's what we want our athletes to know is if you come in here and you train at the capacity and volume that we train at, this vision can be attained because we chose you because we believe you can get there with the tools that you have and the things that are instilled in you. And then while you're in here, we're going to instill those things of work ethic and time spent in the weight room. And then when you get production versus the time you put in, then you're going to start to do it because you see the results. And that's what we have to instill in you while you're here by going through our process.
I love training, and I think you gotta love it. Sometimes my former teammates even tell me I was better at the training part than playing football. But when you look at the 20 plus years you've been at Northern Iowa, a lot of changes across the landscape, especially NIL, portal, different things like that. What new challenges has that created? I think as I reflect on you and I, it's very internally, we know what the culture is when you've been internal with it. How do you continue to develop that culture with athletes that are a little bit more transient due to new rules and options available to them?
I think that's the phase, that's the process we're going right now that's evolving in front of us. And we all read about the first thing that is challenging is the internet. I mean, there's so much information out there. It's not all true, but every bit of information is taken in by the recruits and the prospects and the players and the fans, and everybody's reading that as their news. And it's perception. So, the reality of it is that's the challenge right now is how to get the information that's needed out there that's usable in truth. Then you jump into the NLIs, the name, image, likeness. I mean, that's a big deal, and honestly, that is great for the players, and actually, it's needed for the players. But the intent of it was to. I always refer back to Caitlin Clark. I think she's the best example of that in the country of what the intention of name, image, and likeness is. When somebody gets there, makes a name for themselves because of what they brought to the university with their talent, then they deserve to make some of that money back using their name, image, and likeness. And I think we can all relate to that because she created that image. That is my belief of what the intent of that was. It has become the intent now of how much can I make in college football? Who's going to pay me more to come there? And it's became more free agency in that regard of what's came out of this instead of, I believe, what the true intent was. So there's a balancing act there that we as a college group have to really redefine and get back in between the lines so it can be some equity in it, because that has changed the game in equity. How it relates to us, shoot, I've had, every year, our players are getting followed by BCS coaches and things like that. And they're trying to create that connection to, hey, come over here instead over there. So basically they're trying to use the level, they're trying to use football in a way to recruit from other teams. And rules or no rules, there's ways to do it, and it's happening. So we have to find ways to overcome that challenge. I mean, I'm never going to attack it because we're in the game right now. It's not going to change.
Right.
How do we win within the system that we're in? And that means you better have a great culture within your own team. You better be truthful with your players, and you better have the expectations and productions that you told them when you recruit them to retain them. And even if you do it right, there's still a chance you might lose a great player as well. But in the same breath, the portal goes both ways. Okay, our starting quarterback came out of the portal, and so it goes both ways. So you just have to find a way to win within the system that we're in right now.
Definitely, and I think whether wherever kids come from, if you're going to have success on the field, there's a leadership quality. And I think you've always done a great job of not just creating leaders that are the upperclassmen, but those guys stewarding the leaders of the younger guys and setting a tone. What's changed in how you develop and steward leadership within the team? I know we used to have kind of, our leadership committees and our captains in a couple different ways to communicate with you, but how do you develop and steward leadership on the team now?
Well, that's a great question because each year is probably a little different based off the quality of the guys you're talking about. Because leaders and cultures are such loosely termed uh, things that people throw out there, to have coach talk, and becomes coach talk a little bit. So I try to dig in that, you know, who, what type of players do you have that have the experience, that understand the culture and where you're at, that will become the group that leads the team. But you can't name a leader. I mean, I think I know this. I don't think it. The players know who to follow. It might not be the most vocal guy. It might be not be the most talented guy, but the players will follow those they believe in, those they trust. And so I think trust and truth is the underlying key to leadership and culture. And if you have trust and truth, we can all define those two things. And those are intrinsic things that we all sense and not told. And just because a guy breaks you down at the end of a game, or talks to a team before the team starts, that not necessarily the leader.
Right,
Okay,
right.
it's the guy that you trust, that has the truth, that you will react and respond to. And I think those are the keys to those elements you spoke of.
Yeah, I always think you can only push kids and people as far as they trust you. But if you trust them, if you got trust, you can push each other pretty far. And when you talk about um, the truth, I think I think Doc Rivers said, great athletes want to hear the truth. I remember when you got hired, we're going to date ourselves now, but in 2001, it was a unique opportunity. And as I've talked to many other college athletes, this was a process that they'd never been involved in. But the AD at the time allowed us as a team to counter interview the 5 finalists for the job. And I remember we as a team all came out of there and we did not rate you very high. You know this story, yes? Yeah. And so a lot of the other coaches, as you know, we kind of recollect now, it was, to promise us some Nike and some gear and some things. And you came in with the truth and it stung. And you told us about our defense and you told us about how we could improve and where things could be and should be. And I think it was that truth that created authenticity, which created the trust. And I think, if you're not going to be authentic, you're not going to create relationships, you won't get to trust. And when you were chosen, we were like, all right, well, at least we know where we stand with this guy. And we were able to work from there, and we won a conference title in the first year. Right. And I think how important is it for kids to hear the truth and to also work from it once they hear it?
I think you explained it exactly from your experience. That's the recruiting experience. Is there's promises, and there's truth, and it's truth isn't. My belief is this is, even as a player, even as my experience as a player, don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what I need to hear, and that's the truth. And whereas in recruiting, man, and even in with players sometimes, and I've dealt with assistant coaches, is just a quick example. You go and ask a coach and going, hey, what do I got to do to play? Okay. Like yourself, I was a walk on, so I experienced this. You walk into a coach and you're giving your heart, you're giving your soul, you're giving your effort, you're doing the work, you're doing all those things, and then you're still not on the field. So then you're going, what do I got to do? And instead of thinking about it, walk into the coach and say, coach, tell me, explain to me, show me what I need to do. What in your eyes do I need to do to get on this football field? Yep. And that you just want the truth. And then some guys will say, well, go get bigger, faster, and stronger. And I'm going, well, that's obvious. All right, come on. What? No, tell me about. I'm not making the break. I'm not making the catch. I'm not running the route tight enough. I'm not getting to where I belong. I'm getting overcome by the block. What is it? But show me what you're looking for, and then it's up to me to go get it done. That's the truth. And versus telling what people want to hear, that's the promise. Yeah. And it's just a way to pat you on the butt and get you out of the office. And to me, that's not how you create the championship team, because your team won first year in. We went to the semifinals. You remember the championships, Gateway Championship. I remember going to semifinals. All right. And that team got behind each other, and the players took that team over because they understood the the schemes, but they understood how to work together and grind together. We weren't the best team, all right, on the field all the time as far as best athletes. We were the best team, is how I should say it. We didn't have the best athletes, but man, we were dang sure we were the best team on that field because of how we played. We played faster than people that were maybe faster than us. We beat people off the line because we had invested the time that we knew we could win the battle in the strength contest just because of what we believed in ourselves. And it was the players that created that because you guys took that team and ran with it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about the leaders of the team. It was the expectations of the guys that were the most experienced to say, this is what we're going to do. And then they started believing that. Next thing you know, we start winning. Heck, we got whooped the first game, if you remember.
Yeah.
All right. And then after that, man, we got on a run. And then everybody that we lined up with, man, we were come from behind, and we didn't allow people to beat us. We won the game because of willpower.
Yeah. How from those years to now, when you self-reflect, how have you changed as a coach and maybe become more effective?
Oh, that's a great question. Because man, you better evolve. The game's evolved. The game has changed. It's still got the same rules to it, but man, it has changed. Offense has changed, defense has changed, leagues have changed. The player recruiting has changed. I mean, probably the way to do it. I don't even know how to verbalize that. Quite frankly, it's just, and I've changed because of the approach with the players. You're young and fiery and gonna beat everybody. Coming out of the gate, and then you start to learn that the what you instill in them is really affects them over the course of time.
Yeah.
And it's became that you really have to coach your coaches now. Before I was when I first got here, Rob Bolks was my mentor. Ted Gill was my mentor.
Yeah.
Neiman was technically a mentor. He was here before me. Okay,
Yeah.
and I look at all these guys. I was learning from them as much as they were learning from me. Okay, but I don't know if they learned anything from me. I was probably learning from them. And then now it's totally on the other side. Every coach I bring in here, I think there's a learning curve of what's the expectation to be a Division I football coach. All right. And what's the workload of a Division I football coach? What's it like? And I think by what we teach them here or what they learn through here, they understand when they make it to the BCS. I think that's why the BCS really comes after our guys a lot, is once they get there, they are very good when they get there because of their experiences of what they learned of what it's going to be like when they get there. And if anything, I hope that helps them. And then they can catapult off their careers and build from what they've learned. But yeah, you've got to change. So there's a lot more coaching coaches now, maybe than was back in the day.
Sure.
But it's still football. It's still X's and O's. It's still motivating players. It's still getting guys to play to a level above their talent. And when you can get a guys to play one notch above their talent level, man, you always got a chance to win it all.
I think you got me to that notch, I think. So I appreciate that. I wanted to share two stories and get your reflections or feedback on them. But they're stories that I share with high school and college athletes that I work with. One moment I remember was you're trying to teach me some nickelback, and I kept stepping backwards, and you did not want me to do that. And throughout practice, you started sneaking up on me and just creeping up behind me. And you caught me doing it, bumping into you, and you gotcha, you got me. And I was about to kind of lose my cool and lose my patience. And I remember Casey Tierney kind of looking me in the huddle, and he was like, he wouldn't be standing behind you if he didn't think you could do it and he didn't care. Something to that effect. And it was this, I thought you're just trying to rattle me and get me angry. But it was that leadership that in that moment that he kind of did that. And it's something I've always told kids. I'm like, don't worry. If they're standing behind you, they care and they know you're capable. When they're standing far away from you, be more concerned. And I think, that was a moment for me that I thought you didn't, just being right behind me. And then that validation from a leader, it was like, oh, he believes in my capability. And I think that moment, also just as I don't know if that even you remember that moment. You've probably done that to a bunch of kids, snuck up behind them when they're getting a false step over the years. But when you are sometimes, again, that trust was there. So you're able to push me. You were able to push me because I trust you. Where do you find that balance of being able to let a kid know that they're capable and pushing them to make them sometimes understand that they are?
I think that goes back to our original, the consistency with how you communicate with people from the day you meet them. Trust starts the first day you meet them. Okay. And then through time, it evolves as that connection. Okay. And it's through communication, and it's through results, and it's through meaningful things that happen that you projected that still happen. So I'm going to jump back to what you said, man. You explained it perfectly correct as far as who's capable, and to take them to that level. So it's that vision of what you can do with your skill set. So I'll walk into a staff room. I'll tell the players many times, I'm going to play to your strength. I'm going to watch our players' movements. Everybody moves differently.
Yeah.
All right. We have a way we want to get it done. We have a template of what we want it to look like, but we can't live off a template. All right. We got to be able to adapt and adjust to each individual with what his skill set is. And if you're going to take a kid to the next level, then you have to really understand him of how he thinks. But you got to learn how he thinks before you can really teach him. Okay, because I learned that from my coach. Daryl Mudger was a doctor of psychology, and he was all about the teaching aspect. And it's all about the learner. It's not about the teacher, it's about the learner. And that's what he explained to us was, man, it's you gotta know the individual you're talking to with how they think. How are they interpreting what you're saying? And it makes a big difference because we all hear things differently because of our past. And so everybody's going to interpret a viewpoint differently based off how they viewed it from their past. So you have to learn that to become a great teacher. And that's a big part of this whole thing too. And, just like you said, then you got to dive in, play to their strengths. Some guys are peddlers. Some guys are more open up their hips better and I get better speed out of them. But some guys can't pedal, some guys can. Some guys can play out of a 2-point stance, some guys can play out of a 3-point. It all depends on what their past is. But we want to maximize you now, not 10 years from now. All right. I want you on the field, and you want to be on the field this year. And then over the course of 3, 4, 5 years, then I can develop you into a peddler and everything else that it takes to be a long-term player. But you want immediate results as much as you want long-term results. So all those things matter. And then jumping into the individual, absolutely. I still stand behind. I'm right behind the linebackers as of the last practice. All right. I'm right in his ear before the ball snapped because I want his eyes where they belong. I want that first step makes or breaks you. As you know, that's what we always said. The first step will make or break you. Because when I believe this, you're a great example. You can take a 4-6 safety and make him into a 4-4 safety. All right. If he will step correctly and he has savviness and he has awareness of where the play is going before it goes there. You can also take a 4-4 athlete and he's going to look like a 4-8 athlete on that field if he's going the wrong direction with his first step where he's just pedaling out and getting too deep. So I believe that teaching aspect is that first step makes or breaks you. And if you can train that, go recruit the best athlete you can, all right? Sure. And then get him a couple tenths faster with what you're teaching him about the game, the savviness of the game. And then as they evolve as players, develop them into that full-rounded player that you're hoping makes the NFL.
I definitely ran a 4.5 just for, I think, the record. I just want to make sure.
Right. I was off by a tenth. See,
but you did make me play faster, and I think it brings me to kind of one of the other, I think life lessons I took from our defense and your coaching was not being hesitant. You always told our defense, when we hesitate, we're going to get beat. And I think just in my life and career, sometimes it's like, man, don't hesitate. When you hesitate, you're prone to get beat. And I think that's just a life lesson that I think just kind of came from experience through your coaching on defense. But when you hear that in life, how does that hit home with you off the football field?
Oh, that's huge. When you start hesitation, and even as you evolve, sometimes you feel to play more safe, maybe more percentage wise. But when you say the same thing, it applies across the board, man. Is you can't hesitate, you can't second guess yourself. So I'm going to go to the goal line. I think that's the first time I ever explained it to you guys is down at the goal line. Man, you go off your first instinct at the goal line on defense. You can't second guess yourself. You got to go because there's only a couple yards down there, and whoever hits the hardest is going to get knocked back. So you can't wait. You got to go off what you believe and your first instinct. And your first instinct is a true instinct. Will you be wrong once in a while? Yes. All right. But man, okay, you're going to be right a heck of a lot more, and you're going to make more progress if you don't hesitate because of how you prepared. If you prepared correctly, there is no hesitation. Don't second guess yourself because you put the time in. If you don't put the time in, you better be second guessing yourself all the time. All right, because then you're guessing. Right. So play with no hesitation versus guessing are two different things, and sometimes they're interpreted the same way. So you put the time in, you prepare. You do the things that are necessary, then don't hesitate and rely on your training, rely on what you prepared for, and then the hesitation takes it out of the game. And now apply that to go getting jobs, being in jobs, making those crucial decisions with family decisions, with business decisions. Don't hesitate if you're prepared. All right, go with your gut because your gut is why you're good. And it's all those things that you prepared all your life, whether it's from your parents, from your coaches, or from your own experiences. Your gut's going to lead you in a direction. Don't second guess it. Okay. If you prepared and did the time analytically, then go with your gut to make those split second choices.
Love it, Coach. When you say goal line too, my first thing through my mind is Mike Slide 10.
Slide Mike 10.
Slide Mike, so man, I got to get it right before I call this check. But that was I think one of our defenses that we played fast with down there. But as we kind of wrap up here, my listeners we're 130 some episodes into this. We've talked to sports psychologists, coaches, NFL players. We've never talked to someone that's coached me. And so when you look back, and if you wanted to tell our listeners and give them some insight, what kind of player was I? What kind of leader was I? Give me a grade. I'll take it. Take a tough grade. But what do you recall about my days being there as a player and as a teammate?
Here's how I grade you. You were an example of that team. So if you guys remember, UNI is a powerhouse, okay, for years. Then over 4 years, they were good, but they hadn't made the playoffs, okay? So when I came back, I was a part of all those years where we were a powerhouse, so I only thought one way. I knew the UNI way of what was expected and what was doable. And you guys had good teams, but it just lacked that last little push from what I saw. So I'm going to go back. I had to explain that first to explain you. Man, you are a great example of what that team did. And some of the guys you mentioned, Tierney. I mean, man, both you guys all over. You had the determination, all right, to be great. You had the work ethic to be great. You loved and you all were passionate about football. Grading you as a player on the field, I'm going to give you a B, okay? But a player on game day was an A. And as a teammate, an A+, because your will, that presence of that willpower was throughout your whole team. And that's why we won that year. It wasn't because we were faster and stronger than the opponent across from us. We outwilled them, all right, because of yourself, of not ever giving up as a player, which projected into not giving up that season or that game, all right? Yeah. And it took all of that to be a champion, and we were champions, all right? That word is used too much as well. There's only one champion, all right? And the champion has those things about them, and it's usually what's instilled and what is not immeasurable than what immeasurable is. And that's what makes the champion. We all can find the 4 or 5 guys and the guys that are A players, but who is the A player on game day and not the A player on a pro day? Okay. Yeah. Pro day is just running around in your shorts and t-shirts, and it's a measurable with a clock. Yeah. But on game day, it is not the measurable. It is the champion that shows up, and that comes from the instinctive things from within. And that's what you represented with your team and your teammates in your class. Man, you guys were determined to be good, no matter who the coach was going to be.
Yeah.
You just needed to find the way to pull it all together and somebody to show you what the university could do, what the school could do, and what you guys could do together by bringing along the other guys with you, because you needed the others to be great just like you wanted to be great.
Yeah.
But it was how to bring that out and create that team. And that's what Casey Tierney did for you, as you explained, what you did for somebody else along the way. And the determination, the heart, and the will is what you were A+ at. And that's why that team was a championship team that went to the semifinals that year. And we ran the table. We got whooped the first game, okay, but you guys were determined not to let it happen again. And then we continued down the path. Heck, we even lost our starting quarterback that year and played with the backup. But the backup took us to the semifinals.
Yeah.
Because the backup prepared for the first 5 games. Heck, to your listeners, to the young guys out there, we had a quarterback your particular season. He was the junior college guy. I didn't know him that well. We started the other guy. We were really good. All right. Petrie took us all the way. What? We were 5-1, 6-1. He breaks his collarbone. Breaks his collarbone. He's out. All right. But when the backup came in, what people don't know about the backup is he prepared every single game like he was going to be the starter. I'd go down in our meeting room and he'd be down there at 10, 11 o'clock as the backup quarterback, not even knowing if he's going to play that game, preparing like the starter individually on his own time, not with coaches around. He's watching tape, and he did that for 5-6 weeks. So when he did get his chance, he was prepared. And then ultimately, he took us all the way to the semifinal, and I remember starting him in the semifinal game when the other guy had came back from the injury and was ready to play again. And it was because of how he prepared that he took the baton in the middle of a season and kept it going. And that's what you were. That's what your group was. And that's why that team was a championship team.
It's fair grades. I appreciate great story on, Griff and Tom and kind of that battle and staying prepared and being ready. I know one other thing you told me as I kind of was around my office. It's like, I got my UNI stuff over there, but I don't know where my rings are right now. I know, and you used to tell us they're going to end up in a box somewhere. But what you will always, remember is the memories. And, coaching is a lot of fun. Football is a lot of fun. As you sit there, what brings you the most joy to come into the office and not do that work and do what you love to do and train? What brings you joy?
What brings me joy is the player's experience. Talking to you all these years later, all right, hearing about a guy that went to law school and he graduated first in his class. All right, he's the number one deal. Seeing a Ben Boothby becomes all these years later, he becomes an orthopedic surgeon. Tom Petrie, your quarterback, is an eye surgeon. All right. Heck, Trump is a heart surgeon. I'm going, are you kidding me? These guys are surgeons now. All right. Not just doctors, but surgeons. And, you go, and what brings me joy is to have these guys come back with a smile. And they tell stories. They tell some horror stories as much as they tell the good stories. Yeah. But it was the process. It was the journey that we all took together that made us who we are today. And